Yo, what up, y'all? It's Kid Forward Fabian back again with a video for the channel. Actually doing a reaction to Hidden Civilization of Inner Earth, suddenly found in Antarctica. So this dropped from the Riddle channel. I think this is probably the first time I've done a reaction to them, but you already know where this is going, man. I've been curating the interesting stuff playlist over the past few weeks, man. A lot of content there, a lot of interesting stuff. So go ahead and check it out. Link provided in the description as well as pinned in the comment section down below, man. Support a young entrepreneur. Check out my description, man. Donate to the channel. PayPal link in the description. Additionally, you can check out the playlist page to get familiar with all the different forms of content I drop on the channel. So without further ado, man, let's hop into this video and see what Riddle has to say.
When we accidentally flew into some kind of crater in the ground, my crew and I noticed aircraft we had never seen before. Human-like creatures met us, but they seemed much more developed than people. The president has been advised. I am now detained and placed under strict control via the national security provisions of the United States of America. I am ordered to remain silent. These entries from Admiral Richard Byrd's personal diary miraculously leaked into the press in the second half of the 90s. A detailed description of the civilization that lives literally under our feet really shocked society because the records belonged not to some madman, but to a respected American military pilot with numerous state awards. Many questions arise. How could a whole civilization fit underground?
Atlantis?
Can you trust the words of Richard Byrd? And most importantly, who lives below us? Richard Byrd's claims that he met some mysterious people underground could be considered complete nonsense if there were no examples of such settlements in history. In 1963, a resident of Cappadocia decided to clean up his basement. The man destroyed one of the walls with a sledgehammer and froze in surprise. There was the entrance to a tunnel right in front of him. And when researchers decided to explore it, they found out that the tunnel...
So Cappadocia is in Turkey. I had to do a quick search, man. I had to do a quick search for reference.
...leads to a mysterious underground city. That's how the settlement of Derinkuyu was discovered. Its tunnel system forms 18 floors and reaches a depth of 85 meters.
Wow.
It's assumed that back in the day, about 20 of...
Y'all know what this looks like? If y'all seen the movie The Matrix, right? Not the original one, but I think it's like Revolutions or something like that, to where the people have this own like city. This is what it kind of looks like. It's like an underground type of city.
85 meters. It's assumed that back in the day, about 20,000 people could have lived in this multi-tiered underground city. Some archaeologists believe that the oldest part of the complex was dug in 2000 BC by Hittites, the people who lived here at the time. Others claim that Derinkuyu was dug by local Christians in the 1st century AD. One way or another, such a complex structure is undoubtedly the work of real masters. Some underground locations of the city are not only converted caves, but also rooms carved into the soft sandstone. In addition, there are rooms in Derinkuyu for the creation of which it was necessary to process a material resembling granite in hardness. To this day, scientists can't understand how people of that time could cut through so many tunnels without the involvement of technology. There's also well-designed ventilation.
Countless civilizations throughout history, like all the other videos I've referenced, being able to have the utmost forms of what we think technology back in the day, but then it's wondering how, you know, because they weren't that technologically advanced. So I don't know, man. I think the IQ of individuals back in the day is way smarter than we assume. We just think that since we're living in the future times, or the present times, essentially what would be future for them, that we just got it all figured out.
System underground. wells, and everything to let people stay underground for a long time. Among the underground city's premises are barns, wineries, and sanctuaries. We can say that life here was even more comfortable than on the surface, and all because Cappadocia has pretty extreme temperature changes. Winters are quite cold, whereas summers are unbearably hot. However, underground, the ambient temperature is constant and moderate. But most likely, the underground city was created to hide from the armies of conquerors. Archaeologists have found huge round stones in the tunnels of the city. It's believed that the locals used them to barricade the entrance to the underground city when outsiders approached Derinkuyu. In addition, the tunnel system here is so intricate that only local residents could figure it out. And if one of the enemies did get into the shelter, they wandered until they died of thirst and hunger. Even modern scientists have only been able to explore 10% of the Derinkuyu underground city so far. But it's not that insignificant when compared to the study of the Egyptian pyramids' dungeons. There, the situation is much worse, even though back in the 1970s, researchers began to map the massive underground complex they discovered in the Memphis area. And in 1994, Egyptian authorities confirmed the existence of underground shelters under the Sphinx. But the ancient Greek travel historian Herodotus wrote about such structures as early as the 5th century BC. Herodotus claimed the Egyptian priests even allowed him to inspect a small part of the infinite labyrinth of Egypt. It was built during the reign of Pharaoh Amenemhat III in the 19th century BC. The labyrinth included 1,500 rooms and the same number of underground chambers. Rumor has it that in addition to tombs for pharaohs and crocodiles, considered sacred animals, countless scrolls with secret knowledge are also stored in the dungeon, which should not fall into the hands
like really think about it.
Of ordinary people.
I say, isn't this that movie that was on Netflix, that weird, or actually on Hulu? I was gonna say, man, all the rooms though, when you really think about it, was it for like mummifying purposes? Because like, I don't know. I started thinking of like the catacombs and stuff like that. A lot of underground passageways, trails, but it's crazy to think that we would get so lost trying to figure out our way out. But these guys, obviously being native to the land or native to that society or civilization, they would just be able to figure it out. It's like a maze, essentially. But us not having the ins and outs would just get lost in that thing. And I wouldn't even want to try to explore it because you never really know when it comes to that. But yeah, man. If y'all had, question, if y'all could explore one hidden or lost civilization, so to speak, which one would y'all pick? What would y'all want to see?
People. That's why the tunnels leading from the Sphinx to the underground part of the Great Pyramid also resemble intertwined lace. They say that one who got into the dungeon without a special guide, straying through the labyrinths, inevitably found oneself at the entrance again and again. It turns out that people in ancient times could indeed build entire cities underground. However, Richard Byrd wasn't just talking about one settlement. He mentioned an entire underground civilization. But how could it fully accommodate underground? You'll be surprised, but there's a very logical answer to this question. Since ancient times, people have believed there's another world lying under the surface of our planet. But after a while, scientists began to really consider it. In 1692, Edmund Halley, an English astronomer, geophysicist, mathematician, and meteorologist, turned to this topic. Halley put forward the idea that our Earth consists of a hollow shell about 800 kilometers thick, 2 inner shells, and a core. These shells are separated by atmosphere, each with its own magnetic poles. And indeed, if you think about it, the deepest well drilled to date is just over 12 kilometers, and we've never really seen what is deeper, or maybe even who. After all, the most exciting thing is that the scientists believe that Earth was inhabited inside, although Halley's judgments were ridiculed by the scientific community. in the following centuries, some researchers tried to prove this hypothesis. In 1818, in a letter to Congress, engineer John Cleve Sims wrote that Earth is hollow and inhabited inside. He believed our planet is like a simplified version of Halley's layered model. At the same time, huge openings at the North and South poles allegedly open access to the hidden world inside. Moreover, it seemed to him that such a model is applicable not only to Earth, but to all planets. And to prove this, he asked Congress for money for the expedition and 100 escorts. Of course, the authorities didn't give a single cent for—
Bro, I wonder how many casualties occur when they go on all these trips and journeys. You know what I'm saying? Of course, because they didn't really have the medical support as advanced as we do today. And especially when you're talking about these early civilizations constructing these huge masses. Come on, I honestly think a lot of lives were lost, you know, when constructing these monuments and things of that sort. But I don't really know, man, if I would go on one of these little trips, adventures, journeys to explore the center of the earth or underground tunnels or trails. But what do y'all think about, obviously we know that earth has a core, but what y'all think about earth being hollowed out, people living underground? At this point, you can't put anything past anything, right? Everything that's coming out, everything that's being revealed, it's like, bro.
Research. This hypothesis was virtually forgotten until 1908, when the American writer Willis George Emerson published a book called The Smoky God. The author claims his story is based on a real biography of a Norwegian sea dog named Olaf Jansen. The sailor said that one day his ship accidentally sailed into an unusual cave in the waters near the North Pole. As it turned out, it led into the bowels of the earth. After that, the sailor allegedly spent several years with the creatures living in the underground city. Olaf described them as human-like individuals over 3 meters tall. According to the sailor, this underworld even had its own separate sun. But Olaf's stories are too weak an argument to support the hollow earth hypothesis.
Come on, Olaf.
After all, sailors are famous for their predilection for inventing various fantastic stories that supposedly happened to them at sea. Theories about a hollow earth and people inside sound really crazy, but like legends, they may well carry a piece of truth. What if all this evidence actually corroborates pilot Richard Byrd's notes? Moreover, irrefutable proof of his words has been found in our days, and with the help of modern technology. On November 23, 1968, the American spacecraft SS-7 took several pictures of the North Pole in the complete absence of clouds, and a giant black hole is clearly visible on them.
You gonna move?
Be sure to like the video, man. Comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Check out the interesting stuff playlist.
The question arises, why has the find not yet been investigated? Moreover, at the moment, any flights over the North Pole, including research satellites, are prohibited. The official version says that these bans are precautionary measures because gravity is weak at the poles, so the force of gravity is unable to hold flying vehicles. But likely, they're just hiding something from the public. Remember how aggressively Congress reacted to Byrd's attempts to discuss his fateful flight. So what was so unusual about what he saw at the North Pole? Admiral Richard Byrd's diary entries, dated February 19, 1947, seem normal at first. There, the pilot writes that he woke up early and had been preparing for the next research flight over the North Pole from 6 in the morning. Richard was not an ordinary person. He was a member of a noble family from Virginia. Its roots go deep into the 17th century, and it's rumored that members of this bloodline still play an essential role in U.S. government affairs. In addition, he was not just one of the expedition members, but the first person who reached the North and South Poles by air. The famous admiral also had appropriate friends. Edsel and Henry Ford admired their friend's polar exploits so much that they even financed Byrd's expeditions conducted together with the U.S. Navy. The organization of the flight to the North Pole was at a high level and everything seemed to go smoothly. But on that fateful day, sometime after takeoff, Bird noticed a small oil leak in the engine, after which the plane hit turbulence. The pilot was probably trying to cope with the controls so as not to crash, but instead of falling, the aircraft flew into some kind of cave. Taking off from it, the pilot and his team saw a mountain range they hadn't noticed before the North Pole during their previous expeditions. And even more so, the researchers didn't expect to see green valleys and forests behind the mountains instead of snow and ice. At one point, Bird realized he didn't see the sun, but at the same time, everything around was illuminated by some unusual light. Further in the diary, it's indicated that the radio and navigation...
What they call that thing in Avatar, Iwa or Iwe. It's the luminescence, man. It's the spirit. You know what I'm saying?
Instruments were out of order, and the plane seemed to be circling by itself. When it landed on its own, the team saw strange plants and unusual animals, and some of them resembled mammoths. Bird writes in his diary that some strange flying machines began to approach them after that, and human-like creatures emerged from them. They were tall, with fair skin shimmering with a slight blue-green hue, just like all the local water bodies. These unusual people had white hair and clothes. When they spoke, Bird somehow understood them. They explained to the pilot that he was now underground and invited him to go with them to see how the underground civilization of Agartha lived. People there move on platforms without wheels and live in houses made of crystals, so their city shines and shimmers with all the rainbow colors. In his diary, he repeatedly wrote that he couldn't find words to describe what he saw, but one thing was clear to him for sure. He met a civilization that surpassed ours in the field of science, culture, and technology. The admiral was invited to the representative of the local authorities, whom he called the Master in his diary. He told the pilot that in the past, the Agathari...
Very detailed story. Very detailed. I mean, he was explaining everything to the T. Now, what y'all think, he was on hallucinogens or no? But imagine
avoided human contact and didn't interfere in their wars, but representatives of the underground were very concerned that the human race had learned to use the power of atomic energy, which wasn't intended for humans. Therefore, after the events in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Agarthians decided to send their aircraft to the surface in order to study people and try to predict their evil intentions. In addition, after 1945, they tried to communicate with people, but were treated with hostility.
evil intentions. Why did they automatically assume we got evil intentions, man? You know what I mean? It's kind of like the UFOs and the ETs coming here, and people assume that they're really studying our people, our nature as humans, the earth, to see whether we're a threat or not, whether they want to try to blow us up. You know, this is all hypothetically speaking, bro. Relax. But with that being said, there seems to be this narrative to where if aliens visited Earth, bro, they would just look at us like the scum of the earth, wonder whether or not we're a threat, wonder whether or not we're even relevant to remain. You know what I mean? So
now, Bird must convey the warning of the Agarthians to the representatives of his terrestrial civilization because, according to the underground creatures, they've almost reached the point of no return. When the Agathari helped Bird and his team return to the surface, he immediately documented everything he saw and heard in his diary and then voiced the message at a meeting in the Pentagon. But the pilot and his crew were strictly forbidden to distribute this information, and Bird, as a professional military man, obeyed the order. Since then, he's been constantly tormented by a secret he couldn't reveal to humanity. If not for the diary's publication after the pilot's death, we would never have known about this incident. But even now, when Bird's notes can be read by anyone, I'm willing to bet that most of you have heard about Agartha for the first time. Moreover, having just learned about it, you're still reluctant to believe in the story, as basically I am. After all, in fact, Byrd was a very controversial person. Some believe he not only invented this civilization to interest as many investors as possible, but even falsified his flights to the North Pole. Otherwise, why didn't he take a single photo? Although most sources write that the flights were indeed performed, and during one of the flights, an accident occurred, during which the pilot was poisoned by carbon monoxide and even began to go a little crazy. But what if it was simply advantageous for the U.S. authorities to put Byrd in a bad light? There's only one way to confirm or refute the words of Byrd and his followers: to find the entrance to Agartha. Pictures of the hole, Halley's hypotheses, as well as the stories of a sailor and a military pilot say one thing: the city may be located at the North.
At Universal Technical Institute, you don't have to explain your passion for cars. We get it. That's why we're making more
North Pole. The existence of Agartha just explains all the strange things happening here. For example, researchers note that the temperature increases for some reason as it approaches the poles. This phenomenon is called the Arctic amplification, and one of the first to speak about it was American meteorologist William Sellers in 1969. And in the northern polar region of the ocean, they found plant seeds that seemingly shouldn't be in such a cold place. Moreover, it turned out that icebergs around the North Pole are composed of frozen fresh water, not seawater. In addition, scientists found red pollen of unknown origin on these ice blocks. There's another suspicious fact that some bird species migrate to the north before winter. Why flee from the cold to an even colder place? Usually, ornithologists explain the need for birds to avoid competition for food with other bird species that remain in warmer regions. It sounds a little doubtful. And this is
very doubtful, man. You know, because why would they even go to a colder place just for, food? Like, if you really think about it, there's probably a purpose behind it. Like, they're mentioning this part of the North Pole, I guess, fluctuates, gets warm, gets cold. So their intuition already understands we probably could catch a season to where we could go, migrate to this area. The temperature will be just as good. We'll probably be able to eat in larger consumptions. Interesting. Because a lot of times, man, this could just be mumbo jumbo talk. When you got a lot of military, government, Pentagon talk, a lot of this stuff, one, is going to get brushed under the rug for fear of, society going into chaos with this information. Two, naturally, they probably wouldn't have even believed Byrd, you know what I'm saying, when he first recited the story. So they probably told him, hey, we don't need you spreading all this and that, whether what you saw was real or not. I mean, we don't have no proof. You didn't take no pictures. And there always seems to be a commonality of people not capturing no photos, bro. But then again, a lot of times people vouch for people being in shock in certain moments, I guess really absorbing the moment, not really thinking about pictures. But who knows? Who knows what's the reason? Maybe the native folk there wouldn't allow that gentleman to take any photos. You never really know. But of course, then he probably would have documented that. But who knows?
Not the last possible evidence that somewhere in the north there may be an entrance to warm areas with abundant vegetation. For example, one can observe the so-called driftwood along the coast of frosty Greenland. These are drifting areas with trees washed ashore on the island. The length of some trees reaches as much as 5 meters. But where did they come from? The exact same question arises among archaeologists who discovered in the ice on the northern coast of Siberia not only a mammoth, which is natural for this environment, but also an elephant, rhinoceros, hippopotamus, and a lion. These animals can live only in warm regions. And the most interesting thing is that in the stomach of frozen mammoths, they found tropical plants which do not grow in circumpolar regions. It turns out that Agartha could be somewhere nearby with its abundance of animals and vegetation. In addition, this nearby with its abundance...
Look at that thing. So if you knew this was Agartha, would you just jump, parachute down there? Probably no hopes of returning. There's no turning back now.
of animals and vegetation. In addition, this city may have more than one or even two entrances. This became clear thanks to the analysis of many legends about such an underworld, which, surprisingly, are very similar, although they're found in different countries. For example, in Buddhism, there are stories about a race of superhumans living in the underworld with a capital called Shambhala. This place is only for those people who are pure in heart and have attained enlightenment. The entrance to Shambhala is supposedly located in the mountains of the Himalayan range, but at the same time, it's well hidden. It's believed that you can get there only with the help of meditative practice and the desire for insight. And the Tibetans even call Shambhala the capital of that very Agartha. It's said that the people living there have a scientific knowledge and experience far superior to the knowledge of human beings. That's exactly what Admiral Byrd said. According to some esoteric traditions, Agartha has at least 7 entrances. 3 of them are in Brazil. The first is in Iguazu Falls, the second is in the state of Mato Grosso, and the third is in the city of Manaus. And in Ecuador, there's a cave which, according to local legends, also leads to a dungeon inhabited by superintelligent creatures. It's located in the city of Cueva de los Tallos, and several metal plates with engravings were found in this 200-million-year-old cave. Having deciphered these drawings, Hungarian-Argentine scientist Juan Moritz told the local press that he may be called crazy, but he's sure there are higher beings underground. And that's not all. In the Indian city of Varanasi, there's also something resembling a portal to the underworld. This is the Sheshna Well, which the locals consider the entrance to one of the mysterious cities of the world of Agartha, namely Patala. Legends say that it's home to Nagas, amazing, intelligent creatures that can take the form of a person or a reptile. They rarely appear to people and are engaged in the construction of underground cities around the world. That's why in India, there's a cult of snakes and dragons. This may be how the Agatharians are seen in India. In any case, it's virtually impossible to verify this. According to legends, descending into the well and plunging into its water, you can see a massive stone door with bas-reliefs of cobras, which can't be opened. No matter how representatives of different countries and religions call the underworld and its inhabitants, one thing is clear: all these stories couldn't have appeared just like that. And if the inhabitants of the inner earth are so intelligent, they could mask the entrance to their world with the help of unique technologies. But what if it's not we who are really searching, but someone is actually looking for us? American mathematician Martin Gardner claims that our universe is located inside another large hollow world. Right now, its creatures are watching a video about how to find the entrance to the underworld with strange creatures called people who are insanely beautiful and incredibly smart. And in the comments under this video, they write, "Stop making videos about conspiracy theories. This is not science. There are no people, and the author of the video is an idiot."
Bruh, that's crazy, man. Hey, people's imagination or reality, you know what I'm saying? The mysteries of the world we will never know. Me, holistically, I know there's a lot of mysteries of life and stuff that, we will never figure out. I mean, it's proven, like there's proof of stuff that people can't really understand. You know what I mean? And I don't choose to really rummage too much in this type of content or try to rack my brain too much about all the craziness of the world, because life and reality, the universe, the world is so vast. You're just gonna waste your time. But it's cool to, I guess, look into things like this, because this is stuff that's documented throughout history, people's own accounts. Whether or not they were crazy, whether or not you believe them or lie, it's still part of history. So let me know y'all's thoughts on this in the comment section below, man. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, @Fabian Road to 1,000,000. Peace, love, prosperity to everybody rocking with the channel. With that being said, man, go to the playlist page to see all the different forms of content I drop on the channel. Additionally, you can check out the interesting stuff playlist link provided in the description, as well as pinned in the comment section down below. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, and God bless, man.